people of the Eastern Kulin Nation and pay our respects to their ancestors and elders. We acknowledge the many clans and surviving language groups in Victoria who have never ceded sovereignty, and we celebrate their enduring culture and connections to country. And I also acknowledge elders and peoples of other First Nations communities who may be here today. Welcome, and welcome to everybody. We run a whole lot of learning programs out of this space, out of the channel. I think quite a few of you have been here before. If you haven't, look us up. But we're really lucky tonight to be, or this afternoon, to be joined by Scott Maxwell. He's from Grant High School in Mount Gambier, and he was the winner of the ARIA Music Teacher of the Award. Music Teacher of the Year Award. Yes. Yeah. There it is. He's going to talk to us tonight about his teaching program and teaching philosophy. You can ask questions during, just kind of make a bit of a kerfuffle, but we will have a Q&A at the end if there's some things that you'd like to talk about then. We'll go for about 45 minutes now, 50 minutes. Grab another drink. If you want to get up during, you're quite welcome to. Then you can grab another drink. We'll have a little bit of a break and we'll do a Q&A, and then we should wrap up by about 6:30. So please join me in giving a hand to Scott.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks, Amy. Thanks a lot. I want to say how much I appreciate everyone coming out and being here. I'm very grateful that everyone's been able to take time out of their lives, particularly most of you probably had spent a day at school, and to come out here it's great. So I want to thank you. I'm going to run through a few things. I'm going to start with a bit of some stories and stuff like that. There'll be a Q&A afterwards after we have a break. But feel free to ask questions and so forth. As a general rule, myself, I've always hated PD sessions. I've always been, the person sitting up the back, like mucking around, or Snapchatting their mates and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to do my absolute best to make sure that this isn't one of those sessions and that you really enjoy what I have to say tonight, because I'm really sort of pumped to be here. So hopefully you'll get something from what I've got to say, even if it's from my backstory, or I'll talk a little about my experience of the ARIAs as well, because that's a pretty cool story as well. But like I said, anything it's meant to be a masterclass, so look at it like it's a class. I guess if this was my class at school, generally I'd start and the kids actually sit on tables. I've got the room set up, so all the tables are around the outside of the classroom, and they'll sit on tables, and we'll have this like casual discussion. And all the lectures that I give, if I'm doing a lecture, is really, really casual, so everyone feels comfortable. So hopefully you feel comfortable. But if you don't, write your questions down and ask me later, because I'm happy to go in every direction possible. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself and my background. As a kid, I got into music. My dad taught me a couple of things on guitar, so I ended up playing guitar when I was about 10. By the time I was in year 8, I was really into music. So I picked up the saxophone, had a bit of a shot on that for a little bit, and then reverted back to the guitar. By this time, around about year 9, I was hanging out with some mates, and we were all into bands and stuff like that. So we made our own band, and we basically jammed on weekends and that sort of stuff. It was pretty cool. By the time year 10 came around, we heard the year 11 band jamming, and we thought, oh, that sounds awesome. So we sort of started playing together. In my general lessons as a student, I'd sit in the classroom and I'd be like, in English, for example, I'd have like a magazine, glossy guitars, be looking at guitars. Oh, yeah, this is all awesome. All I wanted to do was like look at guitars and think about music all day. Music. It was awesome. Not for my English teacher, of course, but it was good for me. The only thing was, music was I don't know, like I did music at school, but I didn't connect with it at all in the classroom. So the only time I had a connection with music was at recess and lunch. And our music teacher was gracious enough to let us in at recess and lunch. Whenever we could, we'd be in there jamming if the older kids didn't have it. And that's really where my philosophy started to, I guess, that's where the seed started, was planted back then when I was having these jamming moments with my friends. It was trodden on by, by probably in year 10. I remember being in the class and we were learning key signatures or something like that. And there was this book, so some of you might use it, but it's called Master Your Theory. And that book was like, whoa, you know, way out of my league. No, I can't do this. No, thank you very much. So I still did music because you got to play and you got to, play your instrument, and, I had a couple of music teachers, and that music teacher was like, she'd have me back playing for the younger kids by that stage after school and all that sort of stuff, but I was still failing. I could play, and I knew what I was playing. I could sort of, I could work it out on the guitar, but on paper, no way. So I guess, it was a pretty interesting experience actually, but I failed music in year 11. And I was that disengaged with school. At the end of year 11, I was on probation for year 12 because I wasn't really naughty. Well, I probably was, but I was disengaged. So I just did things in the classroom, stuff around, sort of thing. They asked me to go on probation year 12. I said no, get stuffed, and off I went. And I got an apprenticeship and as a wood machinist or something like that. But still pursued my dream. I like my dream. I dreamt about being like, this rock star. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to play guitar. I wanted to be like my heroes. I'd read about in the magazines. And so I, did these sort of low-level jobs, and I'd think about music all day. I would literally write music in my head all day while I did. I remember I was a driver. I used to drive jeans from the factory where they were sewn to a laundromat, and that was my job, where they get stonewashed and stuff. So I'd drive back and forth, and it was sort of cool. I'd just drive and think about music all day. I didn't have to think about what I was doing. It was so easy. I'd get home, jump on my guitar, and I'd write. So I've always loved writing music, and I guess fast forward a few years, I played in a lot of bands. From 17, I was playing in pubs and loving life. I loved playing in bands. It was so cool. I did some amazing shows. Ended up playing at Adelaide's 1996 Big Day Out, which was like an amazing experience with my band, the Bearded Clams. And that was so cool. And we had many shows, and it was amazing. I remember I was working at a drive-through bottle shop when I was about 23, 24, and I remember getting home one night, and I reckon I got home, I sort of cracked a beer, and on the TV was the ARIAs, and I was looking at the ARIAs and I was going, wow, that would be the ultimate in recognition of being a musician. Love to be getting an ARIA. Well, it always has been since it began. And there was a band that was getting an ARIA for Best Album that year. I think it was Best Album anyway, called Super Jesus. And I used to sort of hang around in the same circles as the drummer. So we sort of knew him, and I saw him up there, and I thought, oh wow, he's getting an ARIA. That is so amazing. And I thought, oh, maybe I've just made some really bad choices with the bands I've been in. I was into thrash metal and all sorts of stuff when I was younger. So, at that moment, and this is, without a word of a lie, that was the moment where I decided, stuff it up, I'm going to become a teacher. Because teaching was something that I'd thought about from when I was really, really young, but I didn't necessarily think about taking the steps to be a teacher. So I went and did the mature age entry test in South Australia, which is called the STAT test. It's a 2.5-hour test, right? 2.5 hours to get into university. So all this stress and anxiety in year 12 and all that sort of stuff I didn't have any of that. I just went in there and did a 2.5-hour test, and it was easy. You know, like, woo. Got through. It was easy, and I'll go through why I reckon it was easy, and it has something to do with music as well. So, and you know, I'll talk about that a little bit later. But it was simple. Got into university, and yeah, the rest is. I became a teacher. My first appointment was I had a term in Port Augusta as a contract relief teacher, and that was full on. It was crazy, you know. I'd never taught before, and they were struggling for relief teachers. I went out there, and it was intense, and it was a big learning experience. So at that stage, I was teaching like reception year ones. And I had an opportunity to take one class for a few weeks, and even then the music came out, so they were doing a Christmas show, and we were able to do the 12 Days of Christmas. And you know, I was the only teacher there that was able to present a live performance, and so it was just ingrained in me. I just can't help but have performing arts come through what I do. I then taught for 2 years out on the Pinjarra lands in Armiter, and exactly the same thing happened out there, where I thought, you know, what's happening in the community, what's going on here, and music was big, it was huge. Everyone was playing music. Everyone plays music up there. They sing, you know, they sing like there's no tomorrow. It was great, and I thought, awesome, let's develop a music program. I asked the principal, hey, you know, let's buy some recording equipment and some band equipment. You know, do we have budget for it? And she's like, sure, I've got plenty of money. So, all right.
That never happens.
Exactly, right. And but it did. And so I was able to start a program out there, and it wasn't long before we were connecting with community. We had the old Jilpies, all the old men and all the old women come in and record some of their like traditional songs with me, just to have a recording of it. And all the older secondary students were coming back to school. And it was quite easy to see how powerful music was for those kids, because they were coming to school. And up there, you know, a lot of the time to get kids to school, you actually drive a car around to their front house and beat the horn. And yell out, and they'll come, and they loved it, and it was fantastic. We ended up doing film clips in the bush, and it was really cool. There was no formal music program up there at that time. It was just, you know, whatever the teacher could bring. You know, I was the secondary teacher, so I taught every single subject, and that's how it worked up there. So then I moved to Mount Gambier, which is where I live now, and I started as a primary school teacher. And then after 3 years, there was a job open up as a music teacher. By this stage, I had done a little bit of, you know, at uni, I did not do music. I didn't do music at university, so I'm not university trained in music. I did teaching, so that's where I was trained. But by this time, I'd done like a specialist certificate through Berkeley College in orchestration and composing for film, and so forth, because, you know, I was a big boy and I was ready for that information and master your theory stuff by that time. so you know, and it wasn't hard in the end, but you know, I just wasn't developed enough in school. You know, I think we have a lot of kids that are at the same stage. So yeah, I became a teacher at Grant High School in Mount Gambier, where I'm still there now, and it's, you know, it's been this, I've been there for 10 years, so I've actually been able to really dig my heels in and create a bit of a program that has momentum. You know, obviously I haven't done it alone though, so I want to touch on that sort of stuff as well as we go in. But it's, I mean, it's exciting to now be in this position to be able to do things like this and give a bit of a talk about it, and hopefully inspire you guys at some stage to be able to implement, you know, even just one thing that I've talked about tonight into your own programs, is just see how it pans out and see if my philosophies are universal, you know, because that'll be really cool. So that's my background in music, and it's sort of it's unique in a way that I didn't experience that music education at university level. So and I wasn't really engaged in school, so I was never going to taught the way I was taught, because I wasn't really taught. I was sort of self-taught. Everything I did, I taught myself. So mould that in with a teaching degree in education, and you probably have a lot of new, innovative ideas, I guess. But I'm not really going to talk about pedagogy tonight, because I want to talk about some bigger ideas. So I'll that's me in a nutshell. So I'll just tell you what we're actually doing at the school, particularly in the ARIA nomination year. So the ARIA period goes from like June to June, from 2017 to 2018, which is when you have to write an application. So there's a voting process where colleagues and students vote for you. And then there's, you write an application, just like a job application, sort of 800-word application, and you sort of mould it to a criteria like you would anything else. And the stuff that we were doing in the school in that year was pretty cool. We had this ukulele program, so I got a grant from one of the local Stand Like Stone Foundation, and it was only for $2,000, and so I bought 60 ukuleles. And because I see ukulele as like a gateway instrument, sort of, it's easier on the ear than a recorder, but it's funny. I was actually speaking to a high-level music educator, and they were trying to bring recorder back. No. Yeah. Yes, she said. I'm trying to make the recorder sexy again. And I'm thinking, when was it ever sexy, right? A recorder. Anyway, yeah. So anyway, so I think ukulele is cool, awesome. I'm going to take my class, and I was stacking year levels on purpose, not because we were low on numbers, on purpose. Multiple classes stacked year levels, because I'll talk about that later too. Anyway, I was loading them up in this big yellow bus and taking them to a couple of primary schools. And in groups, they would go off and they would teach the Year 5 kids, and I would teach them ukulele. It was amazing. It was really cool. It was really funny though, because you go out to these places and the teachers would go, "Oh my God, your students are amazing! I can't believe it. They're so lovely. They're lovely with the kids. Their language is awesome." And I'd go, "Yeah, thank you, no worries." But when I got them back to school, they were on the table, literally on the tables, hooting and going crazy. If anyone had walked in at that particular time, they would have gone, "What is going on here?" But they were that amped and that pumped, so they really got a lot out of it. So that was happening at the time. We do these events, which is a big thing that we'll talk about tonight. But in that time period, I'd collaborated with some of the arts faculty, and we sort of built up this momentum, and we were doing like an art show. So basically, Year 12 art show. So all the fantastic Year 12 art and really high level sort of stuff. We'd have this like gallery show, and people would come out and have a look at these artworks while there's music going on, and not just one band, but there's one band in here, and there's an exhibition over there, and there's people playing acoustic over there, and then there's another section over there where there's other kids playing. And I sort of strategically placed students to where most people were going to be, compared, just in comparison to how confident they were, or how much experience they'd had in music, how good they were. And that was really cool. And then we started to do, we did this thing called Tasty Tunes, which was an event at one of the main public spaces in Mount Gambier. And the hospitality people put all these marquees up, and were cooking all this wicked food. And we bunted the area off. We had connected with the local wineries. So we had wine there, and we had music, just continuous music. And so there was this, these big events. I think at Tasty Tunes, we had probably about 500 people. That was pretty cool. That was awesome. We did so many things. It's hard to remember each one of them. Probably the biggest thing we did in that year, though, was me and a colleague, Mike Backer, we'd been writing musicals, and that year was our second musical. And he does all the scripts, and I do all the music, and together we sort of bash out the storyline and characters and so forth, because some of the storyline is told in the music. So we did that sort of thing, and it was really, really, really successful. I can't tell you how successful it was because it was just amazing. The way that you get these kids to just react like this massive family. You know, when I say massive, you know, however many kids are involved in the musical, around 50 or 60, and you know, it was absolutely fantastic. And you know, we'd had that sort of stuff before with musicals, but we'd never really had this with an original musical, because an original musical was like a world premiere, and it's really bizarre. And you know, the kids have never seen it. So if you do a musical that's really well known, like Grease or something like that, you know, the kids will go and they'll watch the movie, and they will have an idea about their character. But when you create something from scratch, they've got nothing. So they need to they work their way into the character, and we help them with that. But you know, some of the kids just go off and do it on their own, and that is really, really special. It's really, really special to watch this stuff come alive. And I guess you can put your trust into the kids, and you know, they understand that, you know, your value and their value to the whole thing is just huge. So yeah, I reckon as far as, you know, my program goes, that was probably a big point of difference to what we were doing, these big community events and so forth. I was still teaching music theory and that sort of stuff in the class, but I was doing, you know, a few different things. So yeah, but I was going to show you. What I'll do is, can I just run the audio? Is that on, or can I run it without the?
I think it'll work.
So I'll talk to you a little bit about the musical while I'm on it, because I'll go off on a tangent later and I'll forget about it. But I really want to show you guys. Another thing about writing musicals for kids in this day and age is that you can write really about contemporary issues that involve them. And if you're writing for a group of kids, you know what sort of issues are around. So we were writing for this particular age group, and we were looking at, the story was about, we watched an SBS documentary on, I think it's called Twisting the Dragon's Tail. It was about uranium mining. And so we had this idea about, imagine if there was this stone, and it was this really dangerous stone. It's been hidden and it's been protected in this cave, and a real tyrannical sort of figure wants to uncover it for power and greed, and so it was funny because we ended up with this character in this big suit with this blonde comb over. So it was right at that time too. So you know, we thought, oh, what a great idea, and so we ended up creating this old mining town, it was called, and this stone was protected by these things, and my colleague who I work with is sort of obsessed with strange things. You know, he's crazy, and he's found this puppet on YouTube, and it's on stilts, and the head is here, and so we created these puppets. That were on stilts, so kids were inside these puppets, and these were the monsters that sort of protected the stone, and so you know, that was sort of the crux of the story, and there was the environmental message coming about leaving things in the earth, but then we created all these other characters around the town and so forth. We had the crazy hippie, who was she was actually in touch with the puppets. So she was in touch with the cryptids, they're called the cryptids. She was in touch with the cryptids, and she was all sort of save the earth and all that sort of thing, and leave everything alone and leave everything how it is. And we had these three gossip girls. The gossip girls were you know, every time they'd be taking selfies, everything was social media for them. And they were really sort of, I guess, self-conscious, they were crazy, and each of them had their own little personality, and you know, we were talking about mobile phone use and all that sort of stuff. And also the danger of things going viral was one of the things that we were talking about, like, uploading pictures can be dangerous as well. And that issue came out in the musical. And we had this girl who was completely disengaged with school, and she had a bad home life, etc. She was trying to get out. And then we had one of our main characters was an autistic boy. And so it was called Spectrum, and it was called Spectrum because of this autistic boy. And his autism leads him to think differently, and our idea was we really wanted to make the autistic boy the hero, so we could, normalise it. And because he thought differently, he was super smart, and he came up with the idea, and he ends up saving the town, and so forth. And it's all great. So I thought what I'd do, just so you could get a bit of an idea. I can't really bring like photos and stuff like that, but I was able to bring some audio of just some pre-production work we've been doing. I'm trying to record it so I can make it available, to people to buy and stuff like that. But as a teacher, I don't have the time. But I've managed to do a few things, and I guess I'm quite proud of the stuff we've got. So the stuff that I'll show you now, it's unfinished. So there's bits and pieces, but you'll get an idea for this sort of song. So the first song we'll show you is the girl that's disengaged with everything. She's she ends up befriending the autistic kid in like a detention club. So we'll have a listen to this one. This is her backstory. So I've tried to pump the vocals louder than what they probably should be in a mix. So anyway, let's have a listen to this one. So yeah, that's all I'll show you of that one. The stuff about stuff going viral, sort of with the Gossip Girls. This. All right, so yeah, that's all I'll show you, that sort of stuff. So you can see that I've tried to make the music like, I guess, as contemporary as I possibly can for the kids to really sort of engage in that sort of stuff. And to make it a little bit timeless too, so that, the songs could come out from anywhere. So
Do you write all the lyrics as well?
Yeah. So I do the lyrics and the. So basically, what my colleague will do is he'll write in the script, song here, and I'll write the lyrics, and then we'll talk about. I'll go back to him and say, this is what I've covered in the lyrics, and then we'll make any adjustments to the script, because usually I'll tell a big story in the lyrics. So that song there signifies the. What happens? They go into this cave, and the girls actually get into the cave. They see these monsters, and they take a selfie of themselves in the cave, and it goes viral. We've got the scene where there's all these phones going off in the start of that song, and this tyrant sees the stone in the background, and that's how he discovers where it is. So, just talking about that sort of thing in that song, and. Yeah. There was another song. I'll just show you a quick snippet. It's like one of those things where it's like, oh, I'll show you this song, I'll show you this song. I have to admit, I am pretty proud of them. This one was pretty cool. So what I try and do in each musical is write a challenging song for the kids. for the band. So this one was just like 3 bars of 7/8 and then 1 bar of 9/8, and it was just a little bit tougher for the kids to deal with, particularly the vocalists. So, and the drummer, of course, you had to sort of get his head around this thing. And then I turn it into something that sounds 4/4, but it's not 4/4. So it was a challenging song. So there's always a challenging song. And then we always have a percussive piece too. And the percussive piece always has bizarre time signatures, just to keep all the kids on their toes. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. So
Let me pump this one.
hey, oh yeah. This could be. This is the hippie singing. Yeah, it's got that 4/4 feel, but it's still 3 bars of 7/8, 1 bar of 9/8, and then it just backs onto itself. So that is, that's the music that I love to do.
Can I ask, when it comes to performance time, is it the music played live?
Oh, definitely,
Live?
yes.
And is it by the students or by instrumentalists?
So one of my, thank you for the comment because I would have just missed over that. So one of my great things is that I don't want to have community come in and play in a high school musical. I don't want community to have anything to do with it really, as much as I can. And that's not because I don't want to connect with the community, that's because I want a student-led show. In fact, so much so that for this we had a student stage manager as well. We've had students run the desk and everything before as well. Completely student run. You know, in this band I think we had 2 guitars, bass, drums, 4 backing vocals, and then 2 keys. And that's probably where I write. So we're writing one at the moment, writing for about the same ensemble, except for I'm writing an extra percussion piece in there for an instrument we're going to make. So we do the musical we're writing at the moment. It's about pollution in the ocean, and we're making a drum kit out of stuff we're going to find down the beach. So that's sort of the idea, I guess. But yes, always students. Yeah, that was part of the thing. You get these scores, and you'd be like, "What? How am I going to do that?" You know, and I'd get phone calls from other teachers going, "How did you do that?"
Yeah.
You know.
And I only ask because I taught at a school years ago where they did exactly what you did, was write their own music books, and the music teacher would write the music.
Yep.
And head of drama would write with her colleagues.
So,
but the students weren't playing, it was actually the instrumental teachers that played.
Oh, yeah, see?
So that's why I asked.
That's like the Mr. G moment, isn't it? Yeah. That's where they really, yeah. So,
Can I ask, adding on to that, do you ever allow the students to take that one step further and help them collaborate to create the music? So
what we did this year is we're running a subject called we called it Elite Performing Arts, but I don't know why we called it that, but we did. And and a lot of those kids that were involved in that musical were involved in this Elite Performing Arts. And the term it's a stacked year 9 to year 12. And what the kids did in term 1 this year was they had to write their own musical. So they see us, me and my colleague, working at these musicals, and we talk to them about our creative decisions and so forth. They argue with us all the time about, "Oh no, you should have this character, you should have this character," and we go, "Well," so they had the opportunity to do that completely. So, and we had a range of different music taken on. So definitely, you know, it would be, yeah. So they get to make their own musicals.
But they don't have help with the one that you actually perform?
No, not yet. No. We have this little bit of an idea that we can build a little bit of a side project, and we could like sell these to schools, and schools could buy them, so that, you know. So we're trying to keep it. We don't want to give the creative license to anyone else, because then it gets real messy, and then it's not like we can, you know, sell it to a school or give it to another school, because, you know, there's other creative you know, license involved in that. So we at the moment we've tried to keep it like that, but you know, your idea is awesome, so you should do it.
I can't sing or play music, so I'll leave it to you.
Okay. Yeah.
2 questions.
Yep.
How big is the school?
Yep.
And how do you work at timetabling wise to vertically structure that class from 9 to 12 and have it work within a timetable
Well,
without clashes? And
yeah.
staffing
Great question.
and
Great
how to
question.
Staff it and all that
Yeah,
sort of
I don't do the timetable, so I didn't have to worry about that. But there was a lot of back and forth. Is this going to work? We don't know. And the idea for this Elite Performing Arts is that we're putting the musical on that line. So
in the timetable.
in the timetable, because if we go back to Spectrum, you know, I was by the end of that year, I was done. You know, all of this after school work, lunch times, weekends, everything that went into it. You know, and that wasn't writing it. That was just putting it on with the kids. It was just full on. So we're looking at ways that we could structure it so that we could get it on the line.
So you run it kind of like an elective or
Yeah.
that sort of.
Yeah. Well, it's on an elective line. Yeah. So that's how they ran it. And you know, we were so lucky to have the support from the school to actually get that happening. And it's because of the momentum we had built with what we had done. So we weren't going in blind and saying, hey, we are going to create this amazing thing. We'd already shown that we can create the amazing thing. So we already had the credibility to do it, and I think that is a huge push in just the momentum to get something like that up and running. So yeah, so that's how that.
How many kids in your school?
So this year, 900.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That year,
About
700?
same size as us, yeah.
7 to 12.
Yeah, so 8 to, in South Australia, they haven't yet gone 7 to 12, they're still 8 to 12.
Okay.
So we go 7 to 12 in a year or two,
So
and that's going to be interesting.
Do the Year 8s get pissed off they can't be in the production?
So in Elite, the Year 8s will be in the production, but we're going to run them at lunchtime, and we're going to run them in chorus sort of fashion. Hopefully we can give them enough of a taste to pull them over, because we've always got great Year 8s, and they, you know, there's no way I want to leave them out of the equation. So yes, we're definitely going to include them. I don't think we could include them on that line structure though. It's just way too out there. But you know, but stacking those stacked groups is not a mistake. It's just amazing, and the learning we get going. Those mini musicals that we did, like the amount of leadership that the older kids were showing. And then you've got some of the younger ones too, who are absolutely amazing, and they push the boundaries even further. So the older kids have to you know, rise. So
How does it impact the Year 11 and 12s who are working with, I don't know how your South Australian VCE is structured, but how does that impact on their core subjects?
So we reverse it. So we're doing an integrated learning, integrated studies, which is, I mean, SACE. And with an arts focus, performing arts focus. So basically we go backwards and we engineer the year 10 and 9 curriculum to fit what we're doing. So that's how we do it. We structure it around the top level. So, you know, and then basically we go backwards and we say to the you know, year 10s and year 9s are doing a smaller version, smaller word counts, similar activities, but you know, the amount of work output is a lot smaller, so that's how we get around that one.
So how many sessions a week do you, like how many hours a week do you do for those classes?
Those classes, I don't know exactly. We do, because there's a makeup lesson thing happening, and I don't know the exact numbers, but we have, I am in front of 3 classes of 80 minutes a week, and then there's a makeup line that happens once every 6 weeks. They do a lesson on a Friday, something like that. But our admin's worked out all the minutes, and I just do the fun stuff.
Making up time or doing makeup?
Hey?
Making up time or doing makeup? Like
Time. Yes, time. All right. Should I move on? I'll move on because I've got stuff to say. All right, we'll cover this after the break. All right. All right. I was going to chat about the ARIAs, but I'll do that later because so I did want to share with you. I wanted to share a couple of things that you know how you get you get like letters from kids and stuff like that. When I was nominated for an ARIA, I had one of the students actually went off and got me a trophy because there were four finalists, and the rest is down to a public vote. So I got to the final four with my application, and then it was a public vote. So whether I was going to, the other four teachers were obviously doing a fantastic job, and who knew how the public vote was going to go? I had a strategy worked out that I was going to get how I was going to get votes. But I had this one student, she actually went out and bought me a trophy, like one of those little music that's got a little treble clef on it. And she had written ARIA Music Teacher of the Year, And it was great. And she said, I got you this award because even if you don't get the official ARIA award, and I'm sure you will, you deserve it, to go with this trophy. I wrote this letter and so forth. And, when we talk about teaching and stuff, and we talk about... we talk about all these things, these tough things like lines and minutes and all this stuff that goes with administration and stuff. But I really want to touch on some of these things, some of these other things like this is so small but huge. And like she said, the thing along with many other small things that have stood out to me the most is that just this year I was ready to quit singing. And when you came in to see how our group was going, and they were all mad because I said I didn't want to sing. You took me out of the class and took the time to figure out what was going on and helped me get the confidence back and made me feel better about music overall. The fact that you took the time for me when there were so many other students in the class and you could have just told me to get over it makes me feel like I'm worth it. And every time I get the tiniest bit of doubt, I remember that. That's, to me, is really, really important, super important. That all it was for me was taking the student and saying, hey, what's going on? You right? And giving them some encouragement, just talking about, hey, oh no, remember last year when you sung that song? Oh, it was just fantastic, it made me cry, like you're not going to give up, whatever I said. I don't even remember what I said because it was this moment, and it was a moment in my time which only took 2 minutes. But that was huge, the impact was huge. And she's a massive part of our program today. So she's gone from this spot where she's just about to give up to a spot where it's really, really, she's a really, really solid student who loves to engage in everything music. She's always in the music room. And I have another letter. This also demonstrates a part of teaching that I want to be touching on. This is really cool and really tears at my heartstrings. Since the announcement of the day of your nomination, I've had a lot of people ask me what it felt to receive such a compliment from Guy Sebastian. If you don't know, Guy Sebastian came out to our school and did some stuff. And what I usually say is, yeah, it's great, I'm still trying to process it, is my standard response. But being honest, as good as old mate Guy is, it didn't mean much to me. That may seem ridiculous until you consider that I already have my hero in my corner at all times, reminding me that my voice and my work is worth something, reminding me that I can achieve the things I want to, and reminding me that I don't even need lessons to be as good as everyone else. And then she goes on about how music had pulled her out of a really dark time in her life, and how it was me that drove the passion and drove her, was literally back to school at that time because she was not coming to school. So really, really, really powerful things. They're both, there's a part here where she says, yes, you took the one part of myself I was proud of and helped me improve it to a place I never thought it could be, not to mention that you also gave me a place that I could honestly call home. The room brings me so much unbridled joy and love and a sense of belonging that I wouldn't be there if you weren't constantly pouring your heart and soul, caring for all the kids who walk in and bringing real music to their worlds. So that's sort of the embodiment of what I think is good teaching, and what I think, is part of the whole process. You know, we're you know, as music educators, we sort of want to be engaging these kids to that sort of standard, and it's not easy. It's not an easy road. Yeah, because like nothing good is easy, right? Like you don't get any satisfaction from doing something easy. You only get satisfaction from doing things hard. So you got to put in a lot of hard work, and that's one thing. Like I got to do this thing in a second. I'm running over time, aren't I? But we've got time. I'll talk about some of this stuff in a second, but you know, it's hard. It's hard work. It's not easy. It's not like this just happened. It's not like that. It's fun, and yeah. So anyway, all right. So I'll put together this little presentation because when Amy called me and said, "Hey, do you want to do a masterclass?" You know, I sort of sat down and thought, well, that's really interesting, you know. What would I say? Because, you know, leading up to that ARIAs, I was just going about my day-to-day business, just doing the best I could for the kids, and that's it. Just putting my heart and soul into it every day, not even really thinking about it. I was sort of dropped back to part-time, and I was doing a lot of surfing, and I was just hanging out, and then all of a sudden, it all started, you know, I was putting in a million% into my job, but when I wasn't on my job, I was putting 1,000,000% into doing whatever I wanted for fun, and it was great. And what happened after you go to Sydney and you hang out with all those big names that were at this year's ARIAs? They were huge, you know. I got to sign my name on the same thing, and I was treated just the same as those guys. People say, "Who'd you meet?" And I was like, "Well, I met a few people, but everyone wanted to meet me." It was so exciting. So an experience like that really knocks you, and you think, whoa. And then to have a masterclass, you think, well, what would I talk about? I could talk about the sort of stuff I've done, and I could keep talking on it for hours. But instead I thought, well, what if I can break it down into a sort of a program bit that I can teach, and I can show you guys how it's done. The only thing I can't do is get it past your leadership. But I will say, as a disclaimer before I start, that, you know, I am way more likely, probably 1,000,000% more likely to ask for forgiveness rather than permission. So, you know, I can't stand up here and say, "Oh, I'm never in trouble," because I am. But I do have a lot of support, and I want to talk about how I managed to get the support from the school, from the leadership, and from the community. How we managed to get that momentum to that point when we were able to do that, because I think that's really important. But along the way, when I was unpacking this stuff, I had some like moments, and you know, you read all this research, and research has been done on music and blah blah blah, and you think, oh yeah, cool. But I think, well, actually, you know, I'm an expert on music. I've been a music educator for 10 years. You know, I've got an award. Surely I can figure out some. I've been doing my research for 10 years, so I've come up with a few things. I was talking about why music, and I was thinking, oh, you know, why is music important? And you know, everyone of us here would have an idea about why music is important. And I'll just have a look. Let's see if I can work this thing. I've never done a Prezi before. This is the first time I've ever done one. So, yeah. So, I mean, I guess I could talk about this quickly, but I did this. When I was talking about a voting campaign. I went to a public vote. And so I went to social media, like, you know, I had to learn how to use it. And so I was doing things, I was uploading these guitar riffs, and I was like a riff a day, I called it. And I had this really long through composed piece that was really flashy. And it took me ages to get it down in one take. And then I just sliced it up into 26 bits, I think it was. And then every day I'd post this riff, bang. And then the next day, one of these riffs. Please vote for me. And, you know, and people were logging in, they'd see the riff, they'd watch it, and they must have gone and voted, because, you know, it was pretty cool. And then I thought, oh, what else can I do? Because, you know, I'm always thinking, what can I give? What can I give? I don't want to just receive. You know, I don't want to receive their vote. I want to give something. So, hey, you know, here you go, have this. So it was a riff, because that's all I could give. Like, I had no money. So, so yeah, and I ended up doing these quotes that I made up. I love this one. just because of, I don't know what you guys focus on here, but in South Australia, there was a huge STEM push, and it's still going.
Maxwell.
So I thought, there we go. We'll do a funny STEM post. So there it was. And then I started thinking, yes, we listen to music with our ears, like we hear music with our hearts. Isn't that wonderful? All that sort of stuff. But these quotes were quite cool. And I had I thought we'd have a look at the current angles of music, and I won't click in each of these because I'll just zoom over them. But this is from Music Australia for 2007. I just grabbed it quickly for the presentation, but I'll just go through these. Australia lags behind in other countries in the provision of music in schools. Too many kids miss out on a quality music education at school. Music aids the development of neural pathways and enhances brain function. Music promotes teamwork and collaboration. Music improves confidence, self-expression, fosters creativity. Music is good. Music is good. An education inclusive of music maximises student opportunity. Music is good for Australian social, cultural, economic growth. Australian parents value music and want their kids to be involved in music. This was the results of their studies, and they found out this, and we'd all agree on that. There's nothing there that you wouldn't agree on, because it's fantastic.
But it's not STEM.
Sorry?
Yeah, but it's not STEM.
No, it's not STEM, and in Victoria, is it STEAM?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, it's still STEM in South Australia, but that's so good that at least we get something.
Let's get some arts. Maybe.
So I was thinking, well, come on, music, and I was thinking music's even more than that. Sometimes we tend to jump on the back of the other subjects to try and make, music improves literacy and numeracy. Well, actually, music improves everything. It's not just literacy and numeracy. But are we giving power to literacy and numeracy when we say, hey, music improves literacy and numeracy? It's like, well, literacy and numeracy is the real important thing, so I'm going to get my kids to learn music. So I think, so I thought of, what does music really do? And I thought, along that health line, and particularly well-being, everyone listens to music when they're stressed, or when they're pumping themselves up before a big game or a race, or when they've had a crap day or a good day, or whatever they're doing. Music is there. So I thought, hey, music improves mindfulness. It allows us to live in the present. When we put on our headphones or whatever, when we start to listen to whatever's going on, as musicians in particular, we will listen to specific things, and we will be there listening, and we won't be anxious. We won't be stressed because we're there listening to music. So we talk about, the idea of being, anxious about something in the future or stressed about something in the past, and mindfulness is in the centre. I think music is a great way of putting us in that centre. It's, nothing is like it. So that's why we get all these meditative centres with music and all that sort of stuff. So these are all stock images, by the way. They're all like from the app. I'm just going, yeah, I'll take that. So I've tried to be creative with it, but I think that's important, and that's something that I want to sort of get out there to people, because I think if we can get out there that music promotes mindfulness, we're going to get some backing, and we're going to get a little bit of a push in resourcing and stuff like that, and we might become important again. Not that we're not, by saying that, we need to be just as important as the other subjects, just as important. So the other thing I was looking into that doesn't get discussed too much is the philosophy of play. I think we stop play too early in our education system. So we play is the early years, and then it's even controversial in the early years. Play. What are you learning in play? But with music, it's funny because we play music, right? We play our instrument. It's play. It's what we're actually doing. So, promoting play. And then when I looked up play, I just looked up some, Google image search. This is, pdplay.com or whatever it is. It's funny because the stuff that came up, and I was looking, this is early childhood stuff, but, if you look at this sort of stuff, it's the same type of things we were talking about before. Language skills, confidence, improve social skills, improve concentration, development of cognitive skills, the same sort of thing. So they're really, really interrelated. So the importance of play, I think, is really, really important in our system. And I think music allows us to do that.
I think that also it builds emotional intelligence, which is so important
Definitely.
in today's world.
Definitely. And, you can integrate, and that's something you can do in, I do it a lot in music lessons, to integrate emotion and emotional intelligence. Funny lesson I had the other day, I had the kids, I went into the drama room and I turned the lights, there was real sort of subtle blue, and had the kids all staggered out all over the floor. And I had them in a circle first, so I had to calm them down. It was like after lunch or something. And, I calmed their energy right down, dim the lights, and I was very, very quiet. And I forget what I did. I did something with them to have this chat about something, because I was so hyped. And I said, okay, we're going to go into your own space now. And I'm going to go, and I went into this spot and played a few chords using some sampled string sounds. And what they had to do was they had to respond to the chord. And I said I wanted them to create a relationship with the chord. Name the chord. Not its academic name, but name the chord. Give it a name, give it an emotion, give it a colour, draw a picture, I don't care. But react, have a connection with the chord. So I played 15 different chords. We come back, sat in a circle and talked about what we'd done. So that's the type of thing we're talking about. So it was super cool, and the kids loved it. Best lesson of their day. But when they walked in, I wasn't sure if I was going to get them down to that level, but I was determined because I'd set everything up. And the other thing, talk about, which we talked about before, about how the stat test was really easy for me. Meta learning, so understanding how you learn. Language about how you learn. And for me, it was learning guitar taught me everything I know about learning, because I was so into it when I was a kid that all I wanted to do was learn more and more and more and more. And eventually I found out how I learned. How do you learn? I found out through guitar. So, playing an instrument and learning an instrument, particularly to a high level, I think really increases your ability to know how you learn, and that's transferable across anything. So that was really, really exciting for me, because I learned how I learned. And then I went through university, just blitzing university. I was high distinctions. I was at year 11. My report card, I don't know if I even passed the subject. I can't even remember. I don't know. I would have thrown the report card away, and all my report cards would have said, Scott has potential, but keeps disrupting the class. He would be, it would be a standard kid if he wouldn't disrupt, blah, 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 because I was a disruptive kid. And, but then I got into university as a mature age entry student. And, there's always the mature age entry student who's always blitzing everything. But, that was me. But no one would have known that I had come from this background, which was not that great academically. So, there's some of my deals about music. Okay, cool. Now, I'll get into this. This is good practice. These are some of the stuff, I know I'm getting excited now. This is some of the stuff that I've sort of been working on that I don't know if you guys ever hear about this stuff, but there's sort of things that are not talked about at schools on a professional level. So I want to talk about them because I think they're really, really important. So this is my version of good practice, okay? So good teaching practice, I've done this, an acronym, save them, yeah? So how do we save the kids? How do we save music? This is for everybody, it's for every teacher in the world. So I'll break this down, I'll be brief, but I love it. S stands for spontaneity, okay? Kids, when I teach a class, I have a plan. It's not the detailed plan that you might show somebody who goes, where's your plan? But it is, so I have a goal, an outcome, a vision of what that lesson is going to achieve. But I have this crazy level of spontaneity when I go about doing my stuff. So I can get sidetracked really quickly. Okay, and we all have those teachers that can do that, and some of you might even yourself. But think that this is important in teaching. And the reason why I think it's important, and I know the kids know that I do this. Kids know, and they play on it.
Yeah.
They love it. And they know because as soon as I get sidetracked, I'll watch him go. And it's really what it's like. So I think we need to build this into our lessons. You still got that end goal, but like there's a learning opportunity when there's spontaneity. And it's never talked about. You know, no one ever talks about the lesson you walk into and you go, what am I doing? I don't know. And all of a sudden you have the best lesson of your week, best lesson of your year. All right? And I know that, you know, if you've been a teacher for a while, that's happened because it happens to all of us. But I'm not saying we do that for every lesson, but in a lesson, the reason why I think it's important, and I was talking before, the kids know you're doing it, the kids actually feel like they're in control. They feel like they're in control of the lesson. And when they feel like they're in control of the lesson, they have intrinsic motivation and they learn. It's really, really cool. So I think spontaneity is really, really, really important. What's next? Authenticity. Okay. My kids know who I am, right? I come from a small town. 25,000 now, Gambier. I actually live in between two students in my elite from the arts class. One either side of me. I know, right? So they know who I am. Many of them know where I live. And it's a good thing. It was really confronting. But when I lived on the lands, every single person in the community knows where you live. Every single person. And you get used to it. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing. If you're a good teacher, it's a great thing. Because when people walk past your house, they say hi. You know, they wave in the street. You know, if you're not as good at your craft, I guess it might not be a good thing. You might want to hide. But they know I'm crazy about guitar. This is me doing a Mr. G. At one of those Wild Winter's nights, I've gone up and I've played this cracking guitar solo. It ended up being the guitar solo I used to do that ARIA thing. I'll show you a little bit later so you can have a look. This is me and my 4 boys. We're in Vanuatu for this shot. And my wife took the photo. She's in another shot. They all know. They all know that my wife works at one of the primary schools there. They know I have 4 boys. They know their names. I talk about my boys all the time because they're wonderful and they're crazy and they're exciting, and it gives me another reason to connect, and it gives me a way how I can show the kids that I'm authentic. It's me. It's they call me Maxwell. It's Maxwell. The Maxwell they get at school is the Maxwell I am everywhere. I don't go into school and then put this teacher hat on, and then I mean, I work in secondary school, but that primary school voice? I can't do it. Can anyone do the primary school voice?
Oh, primary school.
Can you do the voice though?
No?
Can you do the voice? So there's like a primary school voice.
James?
Yeah, I don't know what I can't even, but when I hear it, I go, oh, I want to be naughty. As soon as I hear it. Even now. And I'll go to my kids' sports day. And there's one of the teachers, actually the principal, on the microphone, and they're just talking about day-to-day things, what's happening in sports day, and then just the sound of the voice in that tone makes me want to be naughty. They all know that I'm a mad surfer, and if I rock up to school just on time with red eyes and salt-encrusted eyebrows, they know I've come straight from the beach. But being authentic is really, really important, because how are you going to develop relationships if you're not being yourself? So I think authenticity is huge. There's another level of authenticity, and that's in your task design, and that's in your learning experiences. And if you can make your learning experiences authentic, then you've got a huge foundation for a wicked program. And I talked to you about some of the events that we do, and that's all that authentic experience stuff. The other thing about being authentic is it's a really natural behaviour management tool. You don't have to be top down, okay? Because you have respect, it's not you have respect, they know they're respected as well. So it's a really, really important part of my practice. and it took me a while to work that out. But you know, it's me everywhere. It's me, and it's easy to be a little bit more relaxed when it is you. So very important, authenticity. I wrote down some things on all. Did I miss out on anything? Oh, authentic learning is fun as well. So if you create authentic events, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. Kids have so much fun at our events, and they can't wait for the next one. And when they can't wait for the next one, it creates this thing that's called FOMO, yeah, fear of missing out. And it's one of our best weapons in handling things like anxiety, because all of a sudden kids want to be involved, and they're like, oh, what's happening? This is really, really cool. So it's just one of many. The other thing about being authentic, you know, is we talked about before about mindfulness, is being present. You know, when you're talking to a student, you've got to be there. You've got to listen. You've got to listen to them. They'll know when you're not listening. They're experts at school. How many secondary teachers here? Okay. They're experts at school. They've been going to school for 10 years. They know exactly when you're not listening, or you know, when you're not ready, when you're not being authentic. Also, my students get to see me in the teaching process as well. They see me make mistakes all the time. They see me talk about my lesson and how it went. They see me, you know, I talk about the way that I want to plan the lesson, all that sort of stuff. There's nothing that is, everything's transparent. So, but I like to call it authentic. Value. Value. So before I read the story, you know, this girl has just found a place that she can call home. Okay. That girl has a home, and she has a very good home life. Okay, her home life's fantastic, and she has a lovely family. But that's not school. So it's much easier to stay home and go to school. So to get her coming back to school, we have to create a family environment at school, which is what we did and what we have. And it's very full on, and that's hard as well. And I'm not saying it's hard. Like so I've got kids in my room every single second of the day. So as soon as the doors open, they're there, and I literally turn off amplifiers to get them out at the end of the day. I'll stay there if we don't do that. That's the sort of family stuff we've built up. The value. I mean, value works on multiple levels. It's multifaceted, but you know, when you see a student, you know, you've got to recognise the value that the student has, the value that that student brings to whatever situation. So it's a value that that kid brings to you, the value that that kid brings to your program, the value that that kid brings to the next kid. Okay? Every kid has a value, all right? It might be that some kids' value are there to test you sometimes, you know, they're really tough, okay? And if you reverse the scales and think, well, what is this kid's going to teach me something about myself here? You know, how am I going to overcome the situation when you've got those really tricky situations? That's all about value. You know, if you make students feel valued, that will create that sort of family stuff. So when we do the events as well, you know, the kids know that there's something to contribute, and they feel good about themselves when they're able to contribute as well. So I think that's really important that we see the value in students. Value works at so many different levels. I could go on about it for ages. The one thing I've written down here is that, you know, learning's not a one-way thing. You know, when we teach, it's not you just impart your eternal wisdom onto this being. It's reciprocal. It goes both ways. And I think I can, you know, pick any student and go, well, this is what I can learn from you straight up. So I'm not just going to be providing you learning, but we can learn together. What I'm learning might be something completely different, not even related to the subject or school, whatever. It might be something about myself, whatever. So I think that's important to consider as well. Ego. No one ever talks about ego at school, do they? And think about your own schooling. Think about the teachers that you loved. Think about the teachers that you didn't love. I bet your ego played a part there in their philosophies or just in their teaching strategies. You know, I like to try and, as much as I can, level this playing field between myself and my students so that I'm working on a level that's really close to their level. and try to bring them up to the level that I'm trying to be working at. I think that's really, really important. So that's all that stuff about student-centered curriculum and all that type of thing. The girl asked before about, giving the students the opportunity to create things and all that sort of business. That's really cool, and that's really awesome. And talking about the kids, controlling the classroom and all that sort of stuff, very, very important. It goes into the learning from your students. Learning stacks is all about, it's that vertical grouping stuff. Really, really important. I think that we, I don't know why we just say, oh, you're in year 9, you're at this age, you're in year 9. We've all got year 9s that are just as good as a year 12, Why not have this stack, because it just does amazing things. And it's easy. It's hard on you as the teacher because you've got to work out how you're going to, what we're talking about before, how you're going to do at year 12 and year 11 and how we're going to fit all this stuff. But when you get a bit of a handle on it, it's a lot easier. But yeah, we do it on purpose to stack the classrooms. The kids choose all the music, basically. I direct them into some ideas, like Wild Winter's Night is your high energy music, guys. We need high energy. It's going to be a gig. There's going to be smoke machines. We want people up and dancing and whatever you want, but just high energy. We don't want any slow, put you to sleep acoustic stuff that they love to do. That's cool because you can do that at the other thing that we do with sound bites or tasty tunes out with the people drinking wine and that, because they love that. It's just background music. It's cool, or you can watch it and it's cool. But it's, so we try and, well, sometimes we'll have, it has to be Australian music, or it depends what the flavour is. But it's all student-led, okay? So, talking about that leveling the play on, I rarely, except for the musical, say, you are going to play this, and this is what we are going to do. Here is a chart, learn it. Use your own school experience as a source of innovation. That's basically what I did. I took my own school experience and I said, hey, that wasn't very cool. I wouldn't want my children to go through the same sort of thing. How can I do it better? And, that was probably me using my ego, but that is probably also me reacting to the egos of the teachers when I was at school. So there's got to be one more. Mindset. Okay, so on the little flyer, how do you create a music program on a budget? That's this part. So two lots of mindset. The diagnosis, I love this medical free picture I found. So what I did and what I have done for forever is I would walk into a situation in schools and I just go, what's going on here? What's the problem? There wasn't many people doing music when I first started at that school. It was dying. There was glazed over looks. There was a lot of, it was tough, really tough when I started. Oh, what's the problem? And over a couple of years I started to work out what the problems were and how we could fix it. And that's when we started doing, there's all sorts of stuff that I've done, but we'll just keep it to the events for now because it's just easier to talk about. So, doing the events was major. Doing the events where we had kids playing at these big festivals was huge in developing our program. We also brought in a niche subject that got passed, which was music performance, which was, it's no theory. There is no reading music in that course. You don't have to read music. And the kids have to do the, values walk, and they all have to cross the line. You're going to perform, okay? And they all have to perform at these events, so you don't get kids in there that are just there for the free ride, because they have to perform. So it's a great subject. They love it, but they do have to do a little bit of theory. They have to do like reflections, and we talk about PAs and signal flow and all that sort of stuff. So, but what happens is that they quickly learn that there's only so much they can do without learning theory. So they quickly start to understand, I've got to actually know about this before I can do this, if you know what I mean. So that bolstered our program like threefold. Everyone wanted to play music. Before I was talking about those kids that I used to play with at lunchtime, they all still play music, and we're all old. And what happened to me is that I learned late. It was cool. Scarcity versus abundance. So this is about the money situation. I think when you start to think and get into think, I don't have enough money for that, I don't have enough money for that, you're getting into a trap. So I forgot to do my wish list. I don't know if you guys do wish lists at the end of the year, like, oh, what do you faculty want? I forgot to do it for about 6 years because I didn't think I was going to get anything. So I just ran off this budget for about 6 years. Pretty small budget. I don't know what you guys get, but it was really small. I've got I've got guitars that are worth twice as much as that budget. So we ran it off just about nothing, but we had people in the community. We had ex-students coming and giving us their old guitars. This, I'm not using this. Here, have this. We have community member who managed to score a bit of a grant, come in and give us a couple of keyboards and a cool PA. So things started to happen. It was really, really, really awesome. It was amazing. But we just said, oh, we'll go and do it. We have the old community PA from the old theatre in Mount Gambier, and that was all part and parcel of thinking about the program as though you have everything. Because if you have kids that want to learn, if you have kids that are really awesome, then that's what it is. So we're going to use those kids. If that's going and creating a vegetable orchestra, if that's creating stuff out of pots and pans, go out and do a concert, you start to get that community involvement. So that's how we develop the program, and it's just a mindset change. So I broke this one down too into voice. Yeah, it's even got a good one. Good an acronym. This year. This is our, we called it Sound Bites. This is out at the Raillands out in Mount Gambier. We ended up getting, I told you the story, but we got 500 people to the first one. This one was 1,500. Okay? And how we did it was we followed this. I didn't know we followed this until I was asked to do the Masterclass. I thought, what do we do? This is what so I broke it down. All right? So hopefully this will answer some of your questions, and hopefully this could be mildly inspirational. The vision. There's more stock photos, but who knows?
What's the E in voice? I missed it.
Voice, yes, voice.
What's the E in voice?
Oh, I'll go there. I'll go there.
Oh, sorry.
It's not here,
I'm
guys.
behind.
Vision. Dream big dreams, okay? Big dreams have to be big. Well, I want to do this. I want to win an ARIA. Big dreams are hard goals. They're the goals they're the goals you want to be achieving. There's those things you're like, well, we want to put on a production. We want it to be like this. And then you have your achievable goals. Sort of, I don't know if you guys do like smarter goals at school, but they are right down the bottom here. That's like smarter goals to me is they're like a to-do list. So they're the things you've got to do it if you're going to, move up further. So, I don't have to speak too much about visioning, but dream big, which is what we did. This is seriously important, and important to your point too. Onboarding. I haven't done this on my own. I have not done any of these events on my own. I have a super wicked team. They are crazy. They are as crazy as I am. And we have the food and hospitality teacher who is mad, and she loves events. And she's a mad organiser, and she gets all this stuff done, and she creates big festival type stuff, food and so forth. It's amazing. Then we have the drama teacher who is crazy as well, and he loves big shows. He's like, he's a guy. You mention an idea to him, and he goes, oh. He gets excited and passionate. All right, and then we have people that like filling out forms. So, we're gonna do this thing. We need a form and risk assessment and all of that other stuff done. We'll give it to this person. Another. I haven't done one. I'll do them every now and then, but I don't do much like that because we've got a team. Yeah, onboarding. It's really, really important you have a team. So you've got to think about your situation, and hopefully you're in a situation where there are crazy people at your school that you can connect with and that are passionate about pushing things forward. And so forth, because that's what we've done. And then we've got our coordinator, who's sort of like this She's sort of, like a matriarchal figure. And she's overlooks everything, and she's wonderful, and she'll just, hang on, maybe not go that far. So there's this lovely team environment going on. It's absolutely fantastic. And we just try and push the boundaries. So having a team is in your corner. And once you have a team, it's harder to stop because you've got a bunch of teachers, and it's not just one crazy person. It's a bunch of crazy people trying to put this stuff together. And it's really, really important. I can't stress the amount. If you're in a small school, it's harder to do, but you at least need one other person involved because it's so difficult to do on your own. There's no way I could have done it on my own. Okay. Implementation. This is the stuff. Just getting it done. Get it started. Get it booked. If you book somewhere in your community and you say, "Oh, we're going to be here at this time," blah blah blah, then you're done. You're in. You've got to be there. It's like an assignment that is due. You might not do it the night before, but hey, it's going to happen. All right, and then just get it happening. So that's how we do it, though. We just go like, "Oh, it's all booked. You've got no choice." So it makes working easier because you've got to do it. It's all booked. All the stuff that we do, it's all booked at least 6 months, maybe a year in advance. If we're doing it annually, it's a year in advance. So that's an easy one, implementation. Consistency. Okay, this is where it helps with behaviour management. The rest of it, week by week, we have stuff that we do, like little canteen shows. Term by term, the biggest stuff that we do, and then year by year, we do it all again. We have one big event every term. And that's our consistency, and that's how we do it. Evolution. There you go, there's the E in voice, evolution. Feedback, reflection, this is normal stuff, okay? But planning for growth. Planning for growth is really, really important. So we go, okay, we did that this year. How can we make it bigger next year? What are we going to do? So last year we had Wild Winter's Night in our school, in the drama room. This year we're having it in the main corner. Okay, it's 3 times as big. We're making it 3 times as big. We are putting 3 times as many resources into it. So we're planning for, last time it was probably about 120 people that came. This time we're planning for around about 280. We want to sell it out. And when we did the other thing at the Raillands, we planned for growth. We had more food vendors there. There was so much more stuff. We had more performances. We had a bigger space, and we had better marketing, and that basically amalgamated into triple, 3 times. 3 times the amount of people came. So it was 3 times bigger. So that's really, really important if we plan for growth in our events that we do. Same with our musicals. We try and make our musicals bigger, better every year. Just pushing it as far as we can go. Okay. There's voice. All right. So that brings me to your greatest weapon, becoming the front line. So how I got people to listen to, or how we got people to listen to us and give ourselves a little bit of momentum and, value. How we gave our team value was that we connected with the community. We were there. We were out there doing our stuff, and the community could see what we were doing. And there were parents, there were people that didn't even go to the school, and we became the front line. So people go, "Oh, Grant High School, the people that do, the musicals, or the people that do the sound bites." So we heard about that. There was 1,500 people there. We went there for a wine and a beer and saw those performances. They were fantastic. Okay, it gives you leverage. It gives you huge leverage, particularly in regards to getting support from administration, because they know that if your program is canned, or if your ideas don't go ahead, then that's going to have serious ramifications for the actual reputation of the school. So it gives you that line, I guess, that the weight, the gold. So, and we connect with the community in so many different ways. When we do these big events, we're doing a fundraiser. I'm involved in this fundraiser at the moment, and we're going to be raising funds for the Stanley Stone Foundation, the people that have already given us money. We're raising money back for them, and we are doing all these different raffles and so forth. And businesses are more than happy to help us out all the time. They'll say, yeah, here, sure, we'll give you this to raffle off, we'll give you that. You know, I've ended up with some fantastic stuff to raffle, and we're going to have lucky squares and all the rest of it. But it's all part of connecting with the community. And what happens when we get around to soundbites? We've got people ringing us up saying, hey, can we be involved? And we're like going, you know, we're people that do food vans and stuff, and we're like going, actually, all the food's cooked by students, so no. Look, but we're happy to, and we might say, hey, we're happy to use your produce. We're happy to use, you know, the meat that comes from your butcher or whatever it is. So we're happy for you to be involved, but we don't want you to be on the front line. So that's all about, that's how we've created momentum and weight in what we do. You know, so this sort of stuff, you know, started as small canteen shows, started as me taking 3 people into invite-only dinner or a lunch and playing a few acoustic songs, and it's turned into 1,500 people at Raillands with, you know, 3 hours of continuous music. You know, that's how much music was presented at that. You know, we had to turn people away, you know, but not turn people away from the event, but we had to, at the end of the night, we had to turn the big floodlights on so they knew when to go because, you know. Yeah?
Who teaches the kids their instruments and their performance skills, etc.?
So I teach, we've got 3 people that teach in music, which is how big the program's grown. When I first started at the school, I was the only music teacher, and I taught like English and SOS. Now we've got, all I do is teach music. I teach senior school music now, but we've got 3 teachers that teach performance skills. So, you know, and I'm involved in that as well as the other 2. But their instruments are taught by we have a thing called an instrumental music service, and they sort of teach them their stuff.
So that would be what we would call our instrumental tutors that come in 1 or however many days a week.
Same sort of thing. But I really promote in my classes just self-learning, going out and doing it and giving kids plans and so forth of how to practice, how to find out new information. You know, that's part of what I do. You know, those, I think the kids. I mean, some kids get private lessons, I guess. So that's how that works.
Yeah. So is your program purely rock instrument based, or do you also have orchestral students as well? Your brass and.
Yeah. So there's not much. The school's not really resourced.
Yeah.
So to put it in perspective, I don't have a storeroom. I have under the tables, and I have. I should have taken a photo of my lobby. Used to be like a computer pod, but now it's just like, you know, there's cellos and there's a double bass, and then there's trumpets and there's guitars and there's all sorts of stuff there. So, you know, it's mainly rock based, but there are students. We encourage students to learn whatever instrument they're passionate about. So, you know, in my Year 8 class, I've got, you know, we've got 3 saxophones, you know, 3 flutes. We've got 3 drummers. We're all playing at the same time. 2 bass guitars. We've got, you know, 6 singers. And
So do you write all the arrangements?
I don't write the arrangements, but I do write the arrangements. But what I do is I get public domain stuff. So, and then I work it in a way so there's 2 clarinets in that too. So, you know, and I write pretty simple, you know, the Year 8 is pretty simple stuff, so it's pretty easy to get on there and either work a synth line or work the melody line or just play with the guitar line, possibly a bass line. There's also a violin and a cello in that one. But, I mean, what are they playing at the moment? TNT, it's like 3 notes, so it's really easy to do, really easy for them to play, and it gets them involved and gets them engaged, and they love TNT because they get to, you know, at the start they're like, oi, oi, and the whole class is yelling, oi, oi, and it's fun for them, and they don't see it as a beginner song, even though there's 3, because it's AC/DC. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so I guess, you know, but in the community there's also, I mean, there's only really one event per year where they would be able to connect with classical stuff. We do have a concert band, and some of the kids are involved in the concert band as well. There's a lot more. That's a weekly opportunity. So we have some pretty dedicated musicians running the concert band.
I guess I was also referring to like jazz and sort of pop soul, funk sort of arenas, because you've got the
Oh yeah. No,
jazz
the
festival
kids do all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff as well. So, but yeah, we've got kids that have branched off into funk, jazz, and it's rock, but it's sort of pop more than rock.
Yeah.
So it's sort of whatever they're into. I don't really push anything. I mean, my background's obviously in rock, but it's whatever they're into. Big jazz community with James Morrison,
festival,
and James has got his jazz academy there. And
So you're saying in the classroom, it's very much like a musical futures setup, where it's
Yeah.
that sort of
I guess
that's how it's run.
yeah, that's right. We do run it a little bit like that too. So I do generally have proper charts for that sort of stuff though when we're getting into because it's hard to. I guess it's hard to. A lot of band instruments, concert band instruments, they're used to having charts in front of them, and they'll feel comfortable with charts in front of them.
Yeah.
So, I just get into, I use this, school has a license for Guitar Pro, it's free, Guitar Pro, and really easy to use. Find a pub, find something that somebody's uploaded and just transpose it for the instruments, make a few adjustments, make sure it's in the range and so forth.
So basically all they're doing is learning songs, but they're also learning the theory because they need that.
Yeah, definitely,
Leading up to it.
Yep.
And then just learning the songs and using that to perform outside.
That's
to make it
right, yeah,
authentic.
exactly.
And
And
making it
some
community.
of them will learn it with just the chord chart, well, not even a chord chart, like a text. Like,
Just a
they'll just
progression.
go find out the chords,
Yeah.
and then they'll work with the chords
Yeah.
to create these productions. And they usually they're pretty good. So, for example, they might find it's just a lyric sheet with chords, and they'll take that, and the piano player will make their own line, the guitar player will make their own line, and then they'll have a song, and then they'll use that for one of these events. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
I'll just show you. We talk about people getting on board. These are some of the posters of our events. They're all done by our. These are done by a teacher, but that's part of our thing. So you can see how much of a deal we like to make out of it, and these come into our Facebook posts and etc. That we like to push out, and posters around the community and so forth. This is over a period of time. Of course, this is one of our first ones here, and just developed. You can see there's our two musicals there, our art shows, the Wild Winter's Night, and there's our food stuff. So just to show that sort of level of evolution.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.